the other player that's heavily linked today, and this has been my fear, to be honest with you, when I saw this news, I felt like crying. And I saw this come out, and I just thought to myself, Man United could be in, like, I don't like saying legitimate trouble, but Chelsea are monitoring the Frenkie De Jong situation, and this is according to Simon Johnson from The Athletic, very credible when it comes to Chelsea news, says with considerable interest. This has been legitimately my biggest fear all summer, that I've not at one point, I've got a $5,000 bet going on that I feel like he will leave Barca if Barcelona agree to pay him some of his deferred wages. I felt like Man United got a great chance of getting him. But the one element, I've always said 90% sure. The 10% wasn't him staying at Barca per se. It was a Champions League team coming in for him. Bayern Munich, PSG, Chelsea. One of these teams comes in for him. They take him away. The crazy thing is, if Chelsea end up by the end of this, let's just say by the end of this week, with Fofana, Cucurella, De Jong, after already having signed Koulibaly and Raheem Sterling, that's why I didn't want to laugh at Chelsea. Like, as a Man United fan, you want to kind of give a little bit of banter. If that ends up even if it's the end of the window, that's the 5 players that end up with. If at the start of the window, you said by close of business in the transfer window, Chelsea have De Jong, Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, Marc Cucurella, and Fofana, that is the best transfer window of any of the top 6, hands down. If they pull that off, like, yeah, people say they don't have a number 9 that's going to score goals. Yeah, but they've now got creativity in the midfield from De Jong threading those balls through. Raheem Sterling scores. They've got. I still think they're sleeping on Broja. I think he needs an opportunity. I look at that, and if Chelsea pull this off, honestly, they are looking dangerous next year. Dangerous.
The fella who bet me 200 quid might as well pay up now.
If Chelsea go in for De Jong, though, do you think Man United stand a chance against Chelsea in that race, in that battle?
Yeah, because you can match the money, you can match the wages, and the manager knows him. There's 3 reasons straight away. Man United are one of the biggest clubs on the planet. Even though they've not acted like one for about a decade, they're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. The only thing I will say that puts Chelsea maybe in front is Champions League football. Does he really want to step down from Barcelona to go and play Timbuktu FC away on a Thursday night? Probably not. No. Whereas Chelsea can offer him a chance to play Champions League football, and we know that they will get to the latter stages of it. Based on the previous 2 seasons, they've won it and then got to a semi, didn't they? Or was it a quarter? Either way,
well, they got to the quarter, and they were probably the closest team to knocking Real Madrid out last year.
Yeah.
They should have knocked Madrid out, you know,
right at the death.
You know, and again, it's obviously Madrid went on to do what they did, but yeah, I mean, they should have done that. For me is what it is. I think it's that Champions League football, and Thomas Tuchel's a top class manager. Chelsea have a much better squad than people are giving them credit for as well. It's frustrating to me the way I see people kind of talk about them as if
it's because people want to believe, Terry, that their team, Arsenal, Man United, whatever it may be, and the way pre-season's gone for our teams, both of our teams have smashed it in pre-season. Chelsea ain't really done a great deal. You know, people want to sit there and get hype. And I sit here and people say, oh, you're moaning, you're toxic, you're negative all the time. No, I've seen it for 20 years. Everyone gets hype and it ends up where you're falling flat on your face because this team always lets you down. The same with Man United in the last decade. Yeah, everyone gets hype and suing outside car parks and jumping around and like 5-0 against Leeds and all of that, and everyone gets hype. But then ultimately, Man United hit the F-it switch and it capitulates. The same with Arsenal. You've done that for the last 10 years and we've done it for about 15. Yeah, and it's great to be excited. Cool, be excited. But at the same time, it's more hope than anything. Yeah, Man City fans will sit there and Liverpool fans will sit there in the chat or on social media and sit there and say, we're going to win the league this season. And they actually believe it's going to happen. Arsenal fans say, oh, yeah, well, we can get top. And Man U, oh, we can get top. But they don't believe it. They hope. They laugh at Chelsea and hope that Chelsea cock up and that Tottenham do a Tottenham and Spurs it up, that then we can get there. Like, when can both of our teams actually have that, we're going to do it and actually try and do it and go for it to the death? Because I just think, like, I've seen a lot of big time. I know we're going to come on to Arsenal, so I'll save it. Go on, carry on, mate. Sorry.
No. I mean, listen, I get a lot where you're coming from, and it's about, people ask me all the time, can Man United make top 4 this year? Yeah, we can, but do I think we will? They're two completely separate conversations. And when people say, "Oh, Chelsea could really have a bad season," yeah, they could, because we've seen top class teams have bad seasons. But do I think Chelsea are going to have a bad season? No. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Terry, relax. Chelsea can't spend on Fofana, Cucurella, Di Maria after Koulibaly and Sterling." Well, they can and they can't,
Well, they
right?
can.
If you go back to some of the early reports, they were talking about spending over £200 million. You've also got to think about the factor in the money that they raise for players. You've also got to look at the simple fact that, and some clubs don't do this as much as I think they should. Instead of spending that money over 2 summers, spend it in one. As long as you're confident those players work out, you don't need to spend the following year. If Chelsea bring in those 5 players this summer, next year you probably only need a top-class striker, maybe, if Brozier isn't kind of good enough. Equally, a lot of those deals, you're not paying that money lump sum cash up front. You're spending 1/5 of that money in initial payments up front. You know, the new owners inject some cash. You know, you push really hard, you know, year one as an example. Like, and equally, FFP only counts after sort of it's like a 3 to 4 year
3
period.
years.
Yeah, the losses so you could make a big loss this year, but if next summer you don't have to spend anywhere near as much, you sell 2 or 3 more players that you don't need, and you make a profit, then you can balance it out. And that's something that the Todd Bowley group kind of alluded to earlier on in the summer. Now, will they land all those players? Maybe not. And maybe the finances does become a little bit too tight. But if you just take out one of those individuals and the remaining 4 stay, it's still a sensational summer.
I'm just looking at a website, Terry, right, for the last 5 seasons, net spend, yeah, buying and selling, yeah. Right, that's before this summer. Chelsea had spent in the last 5 seasons before this season, 656.9 mil. They've got back in player sales 523.6, which is a net of 133.2, which averages out 26.6 million per season. Yeah, I'm quite sure Chelsea could go and do £250 million this summer, and it wouldn't affect nothing.
And as long as at the end of 3 years from now, as long as they are not making the losses that enable them to be punished by FFP, they'll be fine. Now, it's a gamble. It's a gamble to spend, for instance, I'm making this up slightly because I don't quite know their finances, because no one does. It's a gamble to spend 1.5 or 2 summers worth of money in one window. But then is it, if the players are exactly what Tuchel wants and if Tuchel's being backed? And this is what I would say. These are Tuchel's targets. And listening to a lot of the journalists around Chelsea, it's almost, even Tuchel's been surprised by the landing of some of these players, in the sense of, I'd love Koulibaly, but I think he's pretty much unattainable. All right, we'll go and get him for you. And they've gone and got it done. Yes, it looked very frenetic and it's looked messy, because the only mistake Todd Bowley's made is talking to the press. He should have kept his... Listen, Todd Bowley, maybe not personally, but Todd Bowley and his people were the ones that told the press that Jules Koundé was done. They activated their... They did. I mean, I've got a friend who was at the hotel on the tour where the journalists were staying, and was like, he was talking to the journalists. They're like, yeah, we've just been briefed and told, like, they've activated their, what they call their recruitment process. Sevilla have activated their sales process. Contracts are being drawn up. It is happening. Like, Chelsea really believed it. Interestingly, it looks now more like Chelsea pulled away. But why did Chelsea pull away? Is it because they've seen another opportunity elsewhere? Maybe they looked at Fofana. Now, Sevilla have confirmed that it was Chelsea that pulled away. They did try to come back in last minute, as opposed to being Barca that, like, gazumped them. So, and it's weird that I don't see why Sevilla had any reason to lie about that. It doesn't make any sense for Sevilla to throw that in there. It didn't make any sense. But I think that a lot of people are sleeping on Chelsea massively. Terry, Chelsea will get Rice next summer for way cheaper than he's listed for this summer. Good business. But let me just say this to you now. Declan Rice is £30 million more expensive than Frenkie De Jong, and Frenkie De Jong is better. Like, buying Frenkie De Jong makes much more sense than Declan Rice. He's better than Declan Rice. Is brilliant, but he isn't £30 million.
I'll challenge you on that. Frenkie De Jong, technically, his level's clear of him. Frenkie De Jong's not played in the Premier League, Terry, where you literally touch the ball and you've got 3 players flying into you. Yeah, Declan Rice is West Ham's best player by a country mile. In the Premier League, doing it week in, week out, very rarely looks out of his depth. So, whilst Frenkie De Jong is a better footballer, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to come in and keep that same level of performance that he's been putting in for other teams. Whereas Declan Rice, you know what you're going to get.
That is a fair challenge.
And he's not got to move all the way across a different country. He's moving, we could stay in his gaff and just commute every day. Like, just drive it.
Same house. I get that. I do get that. And that's what you've got to weigh up when it comes there. But thank you very much, Sean. I want to say another thank you to 1970 Chelsea for becoming an official.
You've seen it all if he was born in 1970. Blimmin' hell.
I know.
You've seen the bridge up for sale. You've seen Roman come in.
Roman come, Roman go.